I'm not a citizen of the United States. I'm not a citizen of Michigan. Senators, state reps, legislators, any politician, they're not going to care why I believe second look legislation is something worth supporting. They're not going to care why I believe Jamie Meade deserves a second look. They will care why you believe it, or if you believe it. And I thought, well, I'll talk to you, the citizens of Michigan. Second look legislation is essentially legislation that says people that have served long, indeterminate sentences, life sentences, and have served a significant amount of time, can have a second look, can go back to their trial and sentencing judge, and can have essentially be retried. Taking everything into account, their behaviour, their accomplishments, everything since the time they've been incarcerated. It does not let people out just willy-nilly. And in fact, there's studies that say essentially people that have served such long sentences in prison, I think it's like never essentially go back. You and I would get in more trouble with the law than they would. And these bad criminals serving such long sentences would actually be more law-abiding citizens than you and I. And that's something that we really do need to really take that into account, because that is a fact. Now, I thought to myself, well, perhaps I could say all the reasons why Jamie deserves a second look, which would be the same as many people in some respects. But I thought, no, I'll stick with facts. What's the facts? Why does he factually deserve a second look? And it's not because of the strong, close relationship that he and I have developed. It's not because of his education and his determination to continue that education despite the hurdles that are put in front of him constantly. It'd be so easy to give up. And that man does not give up. It's not because of his genuine desire to help people. It's not because of his advocacy work, which he's been doing for a long time through the NLA and TARP. He wrote the draft of this bill. That's something that I think more people should be made aware of. This bill is happening because he found second look legislation in another state. I'm not sure which, I can't remember. And then he wrote a draft, and then the NLA and TARP sort of took it on. And anyway, that's a side story. That's not even the reason why he deserves a second look. I'm not even using the fact he rehabilitated himself, essentially. Something you and I would have a great deal of difficulty doing. Changing yourself at a core level is a very hard thing to do. Not many people can do it. And to do it in prison, I don't think you and I could do that. Very few people could do that. But Jamie has done that. Those reasons are good enough reasons for him to have a second look, but they're not why I believe he deserves a second look. The reason why I believe he deserves a second look is actually because his trial and sentencing judge says that it's actually time for him to be freed. He does deserve a second chance. She wrote a letter to the parole board, which I'm going to read parts out to you. Now, you can find this letter in its entirety at freejamiemeade.com. JAMIEMEADE. And I actually want you to go and read it, not even necessarily to sort of boost up, what I think, but so that you can see that what I'm saying is not made up and it is not out of context. What I'm about to say to you is not out of context. These are facts. I was a trial and sentencing judge on Jamie Meade's case in 1993. I have never forgotten this case because the outcome troubled me. The law was served, but fundamental fairness was not. This is the first time I've ever written to the parole board on behalf of an inmate. Mr. Meade's case was very unusual, and in my opinion, the sentence was unjust, though mandatory under the circumstances. I had no choice under the law. Mr. Meade was young and acted stupidly and impulsively. A young man was fatally shot and a young woman injured. Mr. Meade was not the trigger man. The shooter, who testified that he shot accidentally first, the killing, and a second time in fear, the injury, was convicted of a lesser offence and sentenced to only 12 years, though it was he that did the killing. Mr. Meade was convicted of felony murder, which I believe was a just conviction under the law, though not in equity, and sentenced to life without parole. Since his conviction, according to his application, Mr. Meade has achieved educational and in-house community service accomplishments beyond anything I have ever seen in an inmate in my 25 years on the bench. He lists all of this in his application. I think he should have a chance. He says he's remorseful, has taken responsibility and apologised to the living victim and the families. He has had no misconduct for many years in prison. It is ironic that considering the way Mr. Meade was going at the age of 19 when the crime was committed, he probably never would have achieved this level of education and focus and aspiration later in life had the crime and sentence not occurred. But life is like that. Things happen and things change. I think the time has come to change the sentence, though a judge would have no power to do so. I struggle to understand why the sentencing judge, who says he deserves a chance, a second look, I struggle to understand why you would need any other reason for Jamie Meade to deserve a second look. And there are other reasons, some of which I hinted at earlier for me personally. Perhaps there's other reasons for you. I ask that you look at second look legislation, consider it, and support it. Thank you.